Hey everybody, it's Kristin. Well, it looks like we're gonna be stuck inside for a while longer. Things are starting to get better, but, well, you've probably heard that we are going to be having to be careful again for a few weeks. So, the book that I have chosen for today, I've chosen for a couple of reasons. One is because it's the start of an extended series, so it'll give you something to read while you're stuck inside and not able to do much. The other is that it is one of my very favorite series, and after having been on a hiatus, it is returning this week. It will have 2 books out in the next couple of months. The first one on July 14th, the next one on September 29th, and they are both really big in terms of what happens in the series. I've had the chance to read them already. But we're going to start today with the first book, which is Stormfront by Jim Butcher. This is a story about the only openly practicing wizard in Chicago. His name is Harry Dresden. Some of you may remember that there was a sci-fi channel series quite a while back. It did not do very well. It was not very good. They may be trying it again soon, don't know. There's a lot of story that can go with this. The books that are coming out in the next couple of months are books 16 and 17. So you have a lot of material to cover. The thing that I really like about these books is the story is really involved. It builds over the course of all of these books. Butcher knew the arc that he wanted to do for the entire series when he started this. He's been talking about that again recently because his original plan was for 20 books and then what he called an apocalyptic final trilogy. Because he had to take something of a hiatus, he actually broke what would have been book 16 up into 2 books, which is the ones that are going to be coming out. They're called Peace Talks and Battleground. So it's probably going to be on the order of maybe 22 books and then an apocalyptic trilogy. But he's put this together so well that you're seeing things in these later books that were hinted at in the very first ones. So the section I'm going to read for you today is not from the first chapter like I usually do. This is from the 6th chapter of the book. But it is a scene in which Harry calls on the help of a fairy. The fairy realm is very real in this book. And the fairy that he's calling is a little fairy, only about maybe yay big. He calls him Toot. He can't really pronounce his real name, so that's his nickname. But he lures the fairy in with milk and honey and bread, and then traps him in a magic circle. And this is Toot's reaction. He screamed a shrill little scream like a trapped rabbit, and took off toward the lake in a buzzing flurry of wings. At the perimeter of the circle, he smacked into something as solid as a brick wall, and a little puff of silver motes exploded out from him in a cloud. Toot grunted, and fell onto his little fairy butt on the earth. "I should have known!" he exclaimed, as I approached from the trees. His voice was high-pitched, but more like a little kid's than the exaggerated kind of fairy voices I had heard in cartoons. "Now I remember where I've seen those plates before. You ugly, sneaky, ham-handed, big-nosed, flat-footed mortal worm!" "Hiya, Toot," I told him. "Do you remember our deal from last time, or do we need to go over it again?" Toot glared defiantly up at me and stomped his foot on the ground. More silver fairy dust puffed out from the impact. "Release me," he demanded, "or I will tell the Queen." "If I don't release you," I pointed out, "you can't tell the Queen. And you know just as well as I do what she would say about any dewdrop fairy who was silly enough to get himself caught with a lure of bread and milk and honey." Toot crossed his arms defiantly over his chest. "I warn you, mortal, release me now, or you will feel the awful, terrible, irresistible might of the fairy magic. I will rot your teeth from your head, take your eyes from their sockets, fill your mouth with dung and your ears with worms." "Hit me with your best shot," I told him. "After that, we can talk about what you need to do to get out of the circle." I'd called his bluff. I always did, but he probably wouldn't remember the details very well. If you live a few hundred years, you tend to forget the little things. Toot sulked and kicked up a little spray of dirt with one tiny foot. "You could at least pretend to be afraid, Harry." Sorry, Toot. I don't have the time. And that's a pretty good representation of what the series is like. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of wit. There's also a lot of drama. There are, don't think that characters are safe just because they seem to be around a lot. There are characters that get hurt pretty badly in this. There are some kind of bloody scenes that happen, so be forewarned, especially in this first book. But if that's something that you're okay with and you're not bothered by it, I really highly recommend this series. It's a lot of fun, good story, great characters. You're really going to enjoy it. Oh, and yep, she's here. Thankfully, she's been quiet for most of the day. Anyway, so that's it for this week. We'll see you again next week. If you want to buy this book and support your local Aggies, the link is down in the comments. You can get it from our website. And remember, until then, please stay safe, wash your hands, wear your mask, and we'll see you next time.